Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to T&M Coaching Unplugged, the space when you elevate your heart and mind, the space when you learn something new every time you join to this podcast. And today we're going to be talking about talent retention. This is a hot topic in organizational development, the engagement. How do we keep employees invested? How do we keep employees engaged? How do we retain and maintain the talent? And how do we create this loyal community of belonging when people are committed to stay within the organization for the long time? It's a really important topic to discuss. And today we have Vivienne Ladommatou, Senior Executive Coach and Content Developer from T&M Coaching, along with Shaun, who is also Senior Developer and Coach and Trainer within T&M Coaching, joining me to discuss this interesting topic. So welcome, Vivienne. Welcome, Shaun. How are you today?
Really good, thank you. It's Friday and it's a lovely sunny day. And really happy to be here talking about a subject which, as you said, is really important.
Good to be here. Looking forward to the weekend, though.
So you've been delivering a lot of talent programs recently, and you were spending a lot of time, talking to leaders, talking to employees, talking to human resources, executives, people's managers about the importance of retaining, grooming talents within the organization. So let's start with this, which I think it's a very important topic. What is the role of leadership in talent retention? When you think about leaders who are leading the talents within the organization, what would you say is the most important perspectives the leaders need to take to be able to retain their talents within their teams? Vivienne, let's go to you.
Well, you're right. I mean, we've just, in fact, we've just come off delivering the first part of a program, and it's something that our clients are asking us for all the time, because they know that they've really got to elevate their game if they're going to be attracting and then retaining the brightest and the best, the bright young minds that we're all looking for. And it's not so difficult to attract them, but it's retaining them. And that's where leadership comes in. The importance of leadership happens when, we've actually got, bright young minds. How do we retain their interest, and how do we persuade them to continue to give us their value? I think that's really notable, actually. I don't know what you think about this, Shaun, but I think it's really noteworthy that today, young people really do see themselves as giving of their talent, their gifts, and what they've got to offer and their value, and they're very discerning. They'll stay if they want to, and if they feel that you're worthy of them. It's kind of like reversed. It's not like it used to be when I went into industry, when it was like, oh, I really want to work with that organization and I really hope they'll have me. It's completely reversed now. And it's like, here I am. This is what I've got to offer. Why should I give it to you? What's special about you? And they do their research, and they watch and they listen. And if they're not persuaded and they're not convinced that this is a good place to be and it's contributing to the world that I want to live in, they're off. There's none of this, loyalty or none of that. It's where is it? Who and what is worthy of the value I bring?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. What's aligned with my values?
Yeah.
What's aligned with my purpose? Is this something, like you said, Viv, I want to see in the world? Is this contributing to a world that I want to live in? And I think people are more and more becoming, aware of what world we want to live in and choosing organizations who help to promote that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Both of you, you're saying that the alignment is important. The alignment to the values, alignment to alignment to, recognizing that the values they will bring, it's received within the organization in the right way. So if that alignment is not present, then the talents, especially the overachiever, people who they know they can create a
high potential. Yeah, exactly. So you can't just have these values that, look good and sound good anymore. Mm-hmm. You asked, what's the role of leadership? It's driving values and making sure that those values aren't just words on a wall, but that those are values which are intrinsic to everyday life. They know, they can see it. They see it in the words and most of all in the deeds of leaders. And if they're not seeing those values reflected in everyday life, they're off. They're off to find it elsewhere. You can't fake it till you make it anymore. You have to be living it on a daily basis. That's what they want to see, and that's what they find engaging, something that matters, that they're contributing to.
Yeah. The same with purpose, the same with the mission statement, right, of an organization. A lot of organizations talk about purpose, but does it have meaning? And I think more and more people are looking for meaning rather than purpose, in some ways. Does the organization's mission statement, does it, the vision statement, the purpose, does it really have meaning? And I guess that is what leaders have to be considering when to engage people who are looking for that.
So the purpose, the meaning, the values. So if I was to be a leader who is listening to this, and a lot of leaders are listening to this podcast right now, also human resources executives, and the leader was asked question, I understand what you're saying, I recognize this, but how do I move from the space of having values and purpose of the organization as a billboard poster in the wall or on the internet and living it when I am extremely busy, I am, running multiple projects, there is a stress, there is a tension. So I would love to live that. I would love to embody those values and meet the talents where they are, but I don't really know how. What would you say to that? How do we get to the level of inspiring leadership to embody that a little bit deeper and to become representative of those leaders?
Well, I think it starts with the leaders involving those people in creating the vision, the mission, and the values of the organization. And I think you said it quite well there, Zoran. Sometimes it's a poster. Sometimes it's it's on pencils, it's on mugs, it's on T-shirts, it's on the screensaver. But it seems to be an advertisement campaign. And you know how some people feel about advertisement. It's not genuine. And there's been no involvement. It's been rammed down people's throats. So I guess the starting point, for a lot of leaders is have we involved people in the generation of these values and the creation of the mission statement and vision? Yes.
Well, you said it, genuine. They've got to be genuine. They've got to mean it. It's very simple, actually. It's not as difficult as it looks. When you mean it, you find that you are naturally making yourself available to those things, focusing not just on management, but on leadership. This is what, we talk about this all the time, don't we, Shaun? What's the difference between management and leadership? Well, management is about, making sure that the right resources are in the right place at the right time to get the results that you need, and managing those systems and processes, including your human resources. But leadership is for people. And so it's about focusing on the leadership side of things and meaning it, being, in other words, authentic. Top of the list is authenticity. Really, if you mean it, it will come out. It will come out in your words. It will come out in the language you choose. It will come out in what you focus on, what you reward, and you can feel it. You hear it and you see it and you feel it, and it's not something you can fake. You can't say, today I'm going to spend this amount of time, or focusing on the values. It's not about that. It's about meaning it on a daily basis in everything that you say and do, and it shows.
And I know that you train a lot of leaders to be able to embody that, to move from management to leadership and to mean it and to be fully authentic. So what is necessary, let's say, for a leader who is a good manager, has a great team, has fantastic talents within his team, and he or she wants to retain them? What do they actually need to do to move from that management to leadership and become more authentic? What is that transition on a psychological level, on a practical level, on the level how they relate to others? What would be the advice that we'll give to them?
Well, you mentioned on a psychological level, right? And everyone's talking about psychological safety. And more than it just being a buzzword at the minute, I think there's real depth to it. I think if we're able to create that safety, that people can be comfortable being themselves, by leading by example, right? By as Vivienne said, being authentic, being genuine, and creating the space and framework for others to do the same, then we have more honest conversations. We're more open with each other. And of course, we need to really then listen, as leaders. So it's not just about us sharing our authenticity, it's about listening to others. And there we have the co-creation of something that everybody feels involved with and engaged with.
And of course, that's at the heart of diversity and inclusion. And we've been talking about diversity and inclusion now for more than over 10 years. It's been a thing, on the agenda. But it has just been a thing on the agenda and almost sort of like an HR project. It's absolutely fundamental now to what we're talking about. That people are heard, all perspectives are taken into account. That and that's one way that leaders can, you asked how can they reflect the values. So if you're talking about diversity and inclusion in your training, if you're talking about diversity and inclusion in your sort of corporate profile, how is that being reflected every day? Really listening to what other opinions are and valuing opinions that are different from ours, gathering people around us who do see things differently and have a different way of looking at things, and not just, sort of that sort of token, sort of a different kind of thinking there in that particular person, but actually celebrating the different, not tolerating, not accepting, but really celebrating. That's what, diversity inclusion as a thing has evolved as well. Yeah. And it has become at the heart of it, the essence of, the psychological safety, the mutual respect and the mutual learning that we like to talk about. If a leader values that, you said, how can a leader do that, Zoran? Mm-hmm. It's not about doing it, it's about being it. If a leader really believes that and really celebrates and embraces that, it'll show. It'll show in everything they do. It's not something you do, it's who you need to be as a leader.
Well, that's a choice, right?
Exactly.
That's a choice we can all make. And once we've made that choice, then we get into the right mindset, the right attitude, and then by being that, the doing comes as a byproduct of being.
Yeah, I was also looking, when I coach leaders myself, certain choices, they come naturally. There's a natural style to it, and we gravitate towards natural style. So if I naturally, as part of my personality, believe in diversity and inclusion, and I'm somebody who is valuing and celebrating other people's opinions, Vivienne, as you said, it comes naturally. But there are leaders that know they need to be inclusive, but it doesn't come naturally. And this is the group that I'm talking about, because I know some leaders will say, I know I need to do this. I know I need to exercise diversity and inclusion. I know I need to become like that, but it doesn't come as I show up, I become judgmental, I become too invested in my own opinion, I become, authoritarian, I become controlling, I become, this is my kingdom. So, you know what I mean? So how do I then move into that beingness that you're talking about and become? And so far you said it's a choice. Anything else that they need to practice to be able to move there?
They need to listen to themselves. We're talking about self-leadership now, right? This is where we've gone now. This is self-leadership. And if that's the case, if they do sort of, in being authentic, that means that they see themselves lapsing into being more authoritarian and okay, I've listened now, but this is what we're going to do. Exactly. Then there's something there that needs to be looked at by them, but to be able to understand. So who am I being as a leader? Why, a leader is a person with followers. Mm-hmm. And today, following is a discretionary act. People will follow if they want to. Managers don't have followers, leaders have followers. And so the question is, who would follow me and why? And if you're being inauthentic, if you are sort of, literally just talking the talk and it's clear, then you're going to have to shift your mindset. And shifting your mindset, we're coaches. So, okay, we're biased, but I do really think that some coaching would come into, would be very useful. And some self-coaching, really being aware of what do I really think? Why do I think that? And is that a choice I want to make, or do I want to make a different choice? But for you to make a different choice, it is a choice. But for you to be able to make a choice, it has to be informed. To be informed, then you have to understand yourself and you have to understand where you are now. If you're not aware of it, then you have no choice. That's what we love about coaching, right? Coaching is what gives you the choice, because it makes you aware of your own thinking. And when you're aware of it and you can see it, then you can make a choice to continue that if it's working, and to change it if it's not. So it's being aware, being self-aware, having self-leadership and self-regulation, and then making informed choices about what you want to shift, not what you need to shift. Because it's something you think you need, it's not going to happen. You know, real behavioral change comes through personal choice, wanting to do that.
I guess along that journey, though, you know, if leaders want to see how they can get to that position, that mindset, that attitude, I guess curiosity could be the tool that they use, you know, asking more questions. I mean, coming down to basic language, and having real curiosity means seeing questions bigger than you are. You know, the questions can uncover so much more than you already know. And I guess the attitude you've been talking about there, Zoran, is that people feel that they know more than other people, right? They know better. I'm the leader. So they think they're bigger than others. They think they're bigger than other people's information. So I guess by asking questions and really listening, those two skills of asking questions and listening, and really listening to other people's ideas and getting to understand and learn from other people. It's in that do we then start to have aha moments, realizations, and maybe just we start to have a shift in attitude because we see the evidence, we see the experience of learning from others. Mm-hmm. So maybe listening and asking questions could be the skills that people do in order to create this attitude.
Exactly, and that level. Thank you so much for that, because I think it's important to kind of unfold that so people can really get something real from it. So, and Vivienne, you mentioned, you know, and also some coaching and feedback. So when it comes to the talent retention, you know, and the discussion about how the performance of the organization increases and how do we keep people engaged, what is the role of feedback and coaching culture from your perspective?
I think, you know, when we talk about feedback to leaders, there's often this sort of understanding of feedback as something I need to do more of for my people, or to my people, actually. You know, I need to give more feedback to my people. But that's shifting as well. And I think more and more leaders are recognizing actually it's not that. It's about what am I doing to contribute to and to help drive a feedback culture in our organization? And what does a feedback culture mean? Well, where giving and receiving feedback in all directions is as natural as saying good morning. Mm-hmm. Or how are you doing today? Where we see it as the way that we grow together and a gift that we give to each other. And I think above all, you know, you asked what would we say to leaders today? Well, be open to feedback and openly encourage people to give you feedback so that you can find out how you can be more engaging as a leader. However well you're doing, how can I be even more engaging? How can I create an even more enjoyable, fun workplace? And that's something else, you know, how do we retain talent? You know, make it fun. And nobody has fun when they're not being themselves. Yeah, we're at our best, right? And look, yeah, we're at our best, and we have the most fun when we feel that we are allowed to be us, when we can be who we really are, mm-hmm. appropriately, you know, and leaders can encourage that by being that themselves. And in order to be that, then they need to make sure that they're not, you know, they don't have blind spots, that they do talk about themselves in authenticity. We often have leaders coming and speaking, you know, at the beginning or at the end of some of the programs that we do, the big sort of leadership flagship programs that we do. And over the years, if there's one thing I've learned, it's those leaders who come in and have the courage, curiosity and courage, we often talk about those as being central, have the courage to be themselves in authenticity, to talk about not just their wins, but their failures, to talk about their challenges and who they really are, and to give us sort of a window into their real life. Those are the leaders who really engage their audience, where the audience, you know, you can hear a pin drop And then afterwards, people want to see them, they want to know them, they want to go over and talk to them. Those are the leaders who attract followers. That's following.
Beautiful.
You said something that I think really resonates with talent, and that's the ability to be stretched, challenged, for them to learn and develop, for them to grow. And that's something that organizations, leaders need to consider. How are we growing? How are we developing people? And of course, feedback is a huge tool for that. But the problem with feedback is, you're often pointing out those blind spots. And how do people react when you point out a blind spot? Well, if they don't see it in themselves, they deny it, or they think you're making it up, or they don't associate themselves with it. So a lot of people go into denial with feedback. And I think, it's worth us leading by example here and having, again, curiosity. If somebody is pointing something out to us we don't see in ourselves, go, well, that's interesting. I want to know more. I want to hear some examples. I want to find out, because maybe this is something, that is fundamental for my development. And if we can encourage a culture where everybody does that, then we truly learn from each other instead of becoming defensive.
And you're also talking, Shaun, about creating a learning culture, because that's something that it's absolutely wonderful, because when you have a feedback culture and everybody becomes curious, you're cultivating and creating a learning culture. So you also mentioned the talents, they want to be stretched, they want to learn, they want to grow. So what is the role of a learning culture, and how can we cultivate this ongoing development to be able to maintain and engage brilliant minds of talents that consistently want to grow and learn and grasp and create progression in their career as well as in their life?
Well, training, we're biased, aren't we? Coaching, training, these are going to be some of the elements that organizations to bring in. But when they bring in that type of, training, it needs to be more than just that traditional somebody stood at the front of the class teaching. It needs to be more facilitation. It needs to engage people, hear people's opinions, and use coaching as an approach. So it's not pure training, it's a coaching, facilitation, learning journey for people. And I think, that is definitely one way of helping to stretch, and get to individuals in the organization in a way that nothing else can. And we see this all the time, Vivienne. We see people who come on our training programs, and they open up. They have these realizations. They have these moments where they have real insight. And some people have come back to us and said, look, this is life-changing, not just for me inside of work, but for me outside of work as well. And those are the times when we know we've created real engagement, and they've got a lot more to give to the organization when they've felt that they've gone on that journey with the organization. They've been able to become more of who they are and to learn along the way. I think that's quite important, actually, for a lot of talents.
And also, I would add to that, I think it's important to be willing to take the risk, to create an environment where people are encouraged to do something different, to challenge themselves. And in order to do that, you've got to get over your fear of failure. In the world today, we don't know what's going to happen next. Change is the only constant. The world is really complex. Workplaces have never been more complex. Planning, precedent, all those things that leaders have depended on in the past to get the results that they need to be successful are no longer relevant or valid. We have to be ready, literally ready for anything. We have to get over our fear of failure. I think also a growth mindset, we haven't mentioned that, is really important, recognizing that, we can all learn and grow. We've all got potential. We have to create the circumstances for that and allow people to grow into that, challenging people in order to do that, in order to grow, and an appreciation that, failure is evidence of effort. That's what creates psychological safety. That's what creates a really creative workplace. Critical thinking, creative thinking, all of those things only come about in a workplace where where it's allowed, and encouraged, and where there is a space for that as well. Real conversations, real communication, honest communication, and reflective learning. Insight, all the good things we've been talking about, comes from where we actually take a moment to look and say, okay, so what went on here? What did we learn? What insights did we gain? What needs to happen now? And on an individual level, what did I learn? What insights did I gain? What needs to happen now? That's the simple self-coaching, isn't it? So making sure that becomes a way of being and a way of doing. Everything we do, whether it's a success or a failure in our eyes, we learn from it and we move forward together. And it's appreciated, genuinely appreciated, not just tolerated.
Wonderful. So we're coming closer to the end of this conversation. So if you were to summarize it for the people who are listening and wondering, what can I do? Who do I need to become in order for me to create the engaging working environment, for me to be able to retain my talents, to create a feedback culture, to recognize and appreciate people as well, to foster inclusive workplaces, to engage the learning culture as well? What will be your one thing that you would love to leave the audience with, that you believe it's one of the most important first step in that direction from your experience in working with leaders, coaching talents, delivering the coaching programs? What do you think is the most important, just for us to drop something so people can really take it and bring it into the everyday life?
All right, always have the courage to be yourself and enable and empower others to do the same. Genuinely appreciate the diversity of humanity, celebrate it, mean it, and aim at creating a workplace where people are giving their best because they want to.
See people as people first rather than workers. I think that would be my final message. And when you see people as people first and treat them as with humanity, then we're talking about their well-being. We're talking about, how happy they are. We're talking about all of these qualities that help, and we know this through research, to have an impact on bottom line, on productivity, on effort, on motivation and engagement. So yeah, treat people as people and not workers.
Can I just add to that? Because I think it's really important. I think this is how, organizations, big corporations have never been more powerful. And I think it's a part of corporate social responsibility to empower people and enable people to be the best that they can be and to encourage them to be well on every level. I think that is how organizations, whether or not those people stay with them, whether they go, whether they keep them or lose them, see them as people contributing to our world, our society, our communities, and, the world at large. And when you do that, then I think then you have a real impact on the world, way beyond just bottom line or sustainability from a planetary perspective, from a people perspective. That's progress. When you're contributing to enabling people, empowering people to be the best that they can be, then I think you're making a real contribution to the kind of world that we all want to live in.
Vivienne and Shaun, thank you so much for this wonderful chat and great conversations. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this. I hope this was beneficial and inspirational for you towards understanding yourself more and understanding who do you need to become in order to be able to create engaging working environments and to maintain and sustain wonderful people that are working alongside with you that we call talents. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Oren. Bye for now.
Thank you.